What's leadership? Who is a leader? What does it take to find success as a leader? These questions and more are explored throughout the episodes on supporting leaders. Listeners get to hear from a diverse group of experts within a wide range of industry. Come along with us on the road to growth and learning. I'm your host, Dr. Lisa Hartman. Welcome to the next episode of Supporting Leaders. And on today's episode, we have Ringo Rajagopal on the episode. And so, Ringo, I'll just kick it over to you right away and just have you share a little bit with our listeners about your background and where you're at now.
Thank you, Lisa. Nice talking to you. And thank you, everyone. My background starts off way back, about 30 years back. I started my career as a tea planter way back in India, uh, where tea is a very big industry, one of the largest products exported in our times. I'm talking 30 years back. So worked for a tea estate with folks working to manufacture, produce teas. So what you see in your packets of Earl Greys and Twinings, and they're probably coming from some garden that I worked on 30 years ago.
Very
So,
cool.
so at some level, I was a farmer, and so started my career there. Thereafter, I did my MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, which is India's probably top business school. And thereafter, I got into the technology space, worked for a company called Infosys, which is probably one of the most reputed IT services company from India today. It's a pretty big global brand. Briefly worked with Accenture, and then my entrepreneurial journey started with a bunch of startups, and I've been in that journey for the last 15 odd years now. Been working in entrepreneurial setups, either in a leadership capacity or in a founder capacity. So this is my fourth entrepreneurial journey, if you will, my current organization. I am the CEO of Umobi Solutions Corporation. We are a enterprise mobility startup based out of Princeton, New Jersey, and I am based out of Jersey. And in terms of academics, I just completed my doctoral defense at Drexel for my doctorate in business administration.
Obviously, that was like the 15-second overview. So I'm really curious, like, how do we go from tea farmer to getting our MBA?
So it's actually pretty inspirational. I met a colleague who worked in the corporate office and said that, you know what, I will be your boss in 2 years. He was my peer in terms of age. And he said, I'll be your boss in 2 years' time. And I said, why would that be? He said, because I have an MBA while you don't have one. I said, if that's the only reason you're going to be my boss, I think I better go get that MBA. And that's when
Wow.
I literally left without a job or anything. And 25 years back in India, that was a pretty, you would say, risky move to leave a
Mm.
corporate, well paying job with all the benefits and pension plans and so on, leaving that to take a risky venture and trying to get an MBA and restarting your career. I guess that was really the beginning of my entrepreneurial streak. I always decided to take
Yeah.
risks and
Hmm.
see what the other side held for me. And the learning from that experience, Lisa, has been that uh, if you don't try, you will not know. So you will never know if you don't really give it a shot. And the entrepreneurial spirit is really that. You got to push that extra bit to see what really happens. And that's how entrepreneurs, uh, for all the successful entrepreneurs, there are many like me who keep trying and hoping to do something meaningful. And there has to be a strong sense of purpose. And I guess I got into the MBA, and the experience was almost transformational.
Hmm.
I thoroughly enjoyed because I was able to relate to my work life and see how my MBA was helping. I could have helped rather help my job being more me being more efficient on my job. So when I completed my MBA, I think I realized the value and importance of an education of that nature. And I think I benefited immensely in my corporate life when I was working with larger corporates. And even at the next level, when I walked into the entrepreneurial setups, the training and the professional experience helped me immensely in facing day-to-day challenges and understanding how to use the tools given to you with your MBA. So I guess MBA for me was immensely important, like a bedrock in my entrepreneurial journey.
Would you say that to be an entrepreneur, you have to on some level be okay with risk? And are there other things that are unique as it relates to being a leader in this space?
So being an entrepreneur in itself, leadership is built into it.
Mm.
You really don't have a chain of command, or the buck stops with you, and many times it starts with you.
Hmm.
So you're really it at some level. And it really starts off with one unitary source, which is yourself. You are the first unit in that entrepreneurial journey. And you need to have tremendous self belief. You need to have a clear vision as to why you're doing what you're doing. And first comes with self belief, and second comes a clear vision as to where you wanted to head. And third comes, I need to get here, and what do I need to get there? What kind of tools, what kind of resources? And you need to have everything has to be very clear, at least at a conceptual level. So you're right. The entrepreneurship is really leadership thrust upon you whether you want it or not. It's not a choice. Leadership is built into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And you are responsible for every decision you make. You are responsible for the good and the bad. And most times, we all know that there are more bad decisions than good decisions in life. So you should be able to accept it, roll with the punches.
So let's take you back to as you were getting your MBA. Did you have the vision then that this is where you wanted to be, that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Excellent question, Lisa. No, I did not. I was very happy wanting to be, because I came from a country like India where employment is very rare in many cases. So you're getting a stable job. One expects to work through their entire life with a certain corporate and retire from that organization. So risk taking is not natural to us. So you could say at some level I was an outlier where I felt that doing things out of the ordinary or doing things which seemingly looked risky appealed to me.
Hmm.
But what excited me was the possibility of an outcome. What excited me about doing those things was the possibility of, if I succeeded, the outcomes could be multifold and it could be, amazing. And even in the jobs that I did within my corporate relationships, I always try to push the agenda to newer boundaries. And I was immensely successful in terms of accolades and rewards and promotions that came to me. But I realized at some level, corporate has frameworks, it has a larger plan, and you need to
Mhm.
operate within that plan. And sometimes you're probably feeling a little constrained. Constraint typically then transforms to some amount of frustration, or even I think I can run faster, but I am limited by the boundaries. So I guess I kind of did not know if I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but all of these pressures was nudging me towards the entrepreneurial journey. And unknown to me, I gravitated towards entrepreneurial organizations initially, where I was possibly one of the key founders or key member, till finally the current organization. I am leading my own ship, you could say. A lot of learning has brought me here, and a lot of things which needs, you as an entrepreneur, you need is an immense thirst for knowledge and the ability to remain a student for life. You don't know enough for the entire life. In fact, kind of segueing into my doctoral program, the first thing that I heard from the dean of our program was, at the end of this doctoral program, you all will know that you know little more than nothing. And that was an amazing message. I loved that message. That, oh, there's so much for one to absorb, assimilate, and build. And so there is immense, the vastness excited me. There's not going to be a limit. I can go as deep as I wish, as wide as I wish, and still realize there's so much more to be done. So that excited me. And actually, I have been pursuing my doctoral program in parallel with my entrepreneurial journey. So many would have argued that you shouldn't be launching two ambitious projects together. But typically, good things happen in chaos.
In your setting, did you see examples of people taking risks? Did your parents, did you feel like they kind of planted that seed of entrepreneurship early? Was it a really supportive environment in that regard?
Uh, so while entrepreneurship was very rare in my times or in my parents' times as well, the one thing that they did in my favor is have full confidence in me and in my decisions, good or bad. And they also said that you own your decisions, your own uh, consequences. So if you take a good decision, the accolades are yours. And if you take a bad decision, the brickbats are also yours. So you need to kind of take the good with the bad. I think that would have been the best seed of entrepreneurial spirit that they had planted in me. That you can't shift the blame in an entrepreneurial journey. You cannot look at someone and say, he did it or she did it. There is no safety net. You are it. So you learn to be very measured. You learn to be very clear about why you're making a decision. Once you've made the decision, there are no half measures after that. You go through with it. Good or bad, own it. You just go with it. And many times you would make mistakes and try and learn something out of it. Like I keep saying, I don't know if this is a true saying or not. Apparently, the word uh, danger has, I'm sorry, the Chinese symbol of danger is, I think, opportunity, and danger is on fear or something like that. So I'm sorry, I'm mixing it up a little, but I know that the apparently one of the symbols is opportunity. So in every negative event, there is an opportunity for you
Wow.
to learn. And if you look at any innovation or any invention in life, in the world today, they've all been born because of a negative event, because of every, sadly, but that's the truth, because man invents, innovates when he realizes that there is this problem. You need to innovate. Petrol, gas is getting over, so solar powered electric cars showed up. And in our own company, we are constantly seeing, we've used, like, for example, when the whole COVID thing broke out, we came out of the product which is a contactless visitor management, where you don't need to touch, you don't need to. So we you said, hey, we built this product. Whether this becomes a bestseller or a blockbuster, we don't know. But we'll even innovate and see where it takes us. So whenever there is chaos and then there's danger, you know, mankind learns to innovate, and that's the entrepreneurial spirit, I believe.
So, say there's somebody listening to the show right now, and they're currently an employee somewhere. They've had this voice for a really long time. They've had this spirit. They want to dive into entrepreneurship at some point. Are there some skills that they could, start working on or developing now that could be beneficial for them as they go down that road?
Absolutely. And entrepreneurial is not an inborn skill, it's an acquired skill. And it's not, so any one of us can be. I never dreamt of being an entrepreneur or building a corporation till even a few years back. So I believe that entrepreneurship is definitely an acquired skill. And for that, my suggestion is, my 2 cents, and what little I have learned is, entrepreneurship is the bedrocks, is the clear vision as to the larger goal, the futuristic goal that you wish to have. And you need to dare to dream. You have to be a dreamer. You need to be able to dream of a futuristic goal, of a goal where you see what it might look like and you're working towards the goal. And ideally, it becomes successful when you have others believing in that goal or that future vision, and you have people walking along with you towards that futuristic vision. And for that, you need to have clear knowledge, you need to have self belief, you need to have grit primarily. You cannot give up. You cannot, if you then basically, it's again boiling down to the clear vision. If you know that this is possible, there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You should believe that, and you should know that I think I have a rough sense of where it is. And there will be roadblocks, there'll be pitfalls. You need to dust off and keep walking. And there are stories plenty of entrepreneurs who've not given up, and today we idolize all of them.
Because we had talked prior to meeting about visionary leadership, that that was something that you're really passionate about. And I think you could take some guesses as to what that means, but just listening to you talk, I'm like, okay, I think I have a better understanding of this. But how would you describe visionary leadership?
Great question. And I think, as you rightly said, when I started my doctoral program, I did not really have an area that I wanted to go deeper into. And as you are yourself a doctor and you understand that, you need to pick a topic and kind of dive deep. And that's what the whole doctoral journey is about. And so I had a rough sense that I wanted to do something in the space of leadership, because as an entrepreneur, I needed to sharpen my leadership skills. MBA made me a smart manager, if you will, possible, and I am kind of loosely using the term manager up to executive positions in corporate organizations. But as an entrepreneur, you need to be truly a leader. You need to be able to lead and successfully take the enterprise from point A to point B. So when I started my doctoral journey and I started sharing my broad ideas with some of my professors, I was so fortunate to have got the chair of Dr. Don von Nippenberg, who was my chair during my journey at Lebo, who is really an authority in visionary leadership. When he heard it, and he was very excited because it kind of fitted well with his leadership frameworks and the kind of work he has been doing. And the story that I had to kind of talk and weave was all about fitting well in the realm of visionary leadership. And that excited me immensely. And I realized that there's an immense potential of marrying entrepreneurship and visionary leadership, and see how that can benefit the journey, both from a visionary leadership research as well as entrepreneurs who are trying to, fight away startup mortality and, trying to build their enterprise. What can they do as leaders to take their organization to the next level? So to answer your question, visionary leadership, as I shared with you a couple of minutes back, it's the ability to communicate a futuristic vision, a futuristic, vision of what it looks like, and the ability to communicate and translate that to others to believing in that vision and helping them walk towards that futuristic common goal. Sometimes people start mistaking it for goal setting. It's not goal setting, it's vision. Goals are different. Vision is the ability to say, speak, and it's I'm trying to keep it as conceptual and not trying to get into specifics, because it is the more organic you are about it, the more richer the concept becomes. The vision of what this organization could look like and how it would look like, and having people who are part of that whole journey believing and walking towards that futuristic vision.
Is the vision, it's always the same? Or when you use the word organic, it made me think that like there's always maybe some ongoing conversations and the door is always open, that there's possibility that vision could adapt and ebb and flow and change?
Great question. Vision at the conceptual level remains broadly the same. However, the way to get there, the reason I said it's organic is because there are possibly, path of least resistance, changes in the approach to reaching the vision. Is you need to be adaptable. And which is where being a student for life and being an entrepreneur and saying that, hey, I'm not able to get to this point A to point B, the route that I had planned out initially. However, point B is exactly where I want to be. Now I might need to take another route. However, the vision doesn't change. So vision you typically do not revisit. That needs to be broadly uh, constant. However, the organic part of it is how do we get there?
So let's say somebody's is sitting here listening and they're like, okay, well, I think I really have an idea. I'd really like to explore entrepreneurship at some point. How would they go about developing their vision?
So, like I said, the importance of building a vision is having understanding of a particular area and the larger and then it comes with knowledge, it comes with experience, it comes with the ability to absorb more and more knowledge and let it process, and so that a vision can be crystallized, a broad appreciation of where you wish this to be and how it will be, because it somewhere it's like the snapping of a lid, it just kind of clicks and you realize this is how it's going to be now, and then things seem to look more and more rational, because what starts off as a certain vision, that is iterative initially. It's you're like still it's running in your head, the whole idea is running in your head, and you're thinking, hey, I want to do something broadly, like for example, very anecdotally, I want to build a corporation. Okay, great, but what corporation? Why? Why should that exist? Why do you think people would even believe in it? So those iterations are probably happening in your head, and even probably even happening with, depending on the organization, maybe 3 friends, 5 friends getting together and kind of talking about it. But once you seem to have a good sense of that futuristic common vision, then I think the tactical steps to get there seem more easy and logical after that. So, building a vision, firstly, you need to have, there is that hunger to be different. There's a need to wanting to do something higher, which is as you say, probably heard the big, hairy, audacious goals. You need to have that. You need to have that hunger to get there, and you need to fuel it. Many of us have dreams of doing a lot of things. So fundamentally, it's like you dream about something, and I said, forget it. It's too much. I can't do it. You give up. But then you said, hey, I like this dream. You kind of get hooked onto the dream, and then you start kind of obsessing about that dream, and that dream you start talking about it to see what does it take to get there. And once you obsess about getting there, you start punching holes in your ideas, and then that's where you be a student and you don't fall in love with your idea. You fall in love with the outcome, but you don't fall in love with the way you want to get there. Maybe the way you want to get there is probably not optimal. The ability to accept and keeping your mind open to ideas and seeing how organically you can adjust, and then once you have done that and you know that that's the futuristic goal, I want to land on the moon. I don't have an aircraft which is going to take me that far. So what does it take for me to get there? But getting to the moon is definitely the vision. That doesn't change. I don't want to land somewhere else. I want to land on the moon. Yeah, maybe I need a rocket. I don't need a plane. So that's where the tactical organic growth happens. That's where you're open to knowledge and you pick up knowledge from multiple fields, multiple disciplines. And then, for example, my whole dissertation was on a partner model, which hopefully helps entrepreneurs in fighting off their startup mortality. How do you build a sales engine using partner models? Again, that's where the visionary leadership, where the partner, the startup himself, is the visionary leader, leading these partners towards a futuristic goal, which is better sales performance and so on. So that's what I did my whole dissertation on. And so the strong belief that I need to get here, and I think it's a possibility if I am able to gather enough knowledge. So the grit, the knowledge, the ability to communicate, the ability to dream, the ability to believe in your dreams, the self belief is I think, ingredients for anyone to become a visionary leader and an entrepreneur.
You've talked about so many things that I think are so important when it comes to leadership, and to listen to its application specifically to entrepreneurship is fascinating. But the self-belief, the vision, passion, I hear you talking about humility, because that's one of the things too initially, that thinking about entrepreneurship in the beginning, you talk about like everything starts and ends with you. And I would think it'd be really easy to let the ego come into play. But it seems like you've really taken the time to think about humility and think about how that's applicable to your leadership and having a great vision.
Absolutely, Lisa. And humility kind of builds into it because you don't really plan. It happens because when you, like I said, when you don't realize there's so much for you to learn, there's so much more to learn, that the journey is not over. So you're constantly keeping your mind open to new ideas, but keeping your own, the ability to decide what is right or wrong. That's where your knowledge base comes in. So you're open to ideas, but you're not going to fall for every idea that comes your way. That's
Mm.
where knowledge and grit and focus comes through. You're absolutely right. I think have got great inspirational ideas from very unrelated, unexpected sources. I mean, I can bore you with in anecdotes of how I've got suggestions from lots of people, including my, you know, daughter who's a sophomore at college, who's probably critiqued me for something, and I've accepted that idea and said, wait a minute, because I do not know where the next good idea is going to come from or next good suggestion is going to come from. So I'm not going to close my mind. I'm going to let all the ideas come and melt in my head, and then I will then, you know, compare what's good and bad, and probably take decisions, but keeping in mind the vision that where I want to head. I have a
Hmm.
clear vision that I want to take my organization here, and I want to see if that kind of aligns with my visionary plans. And if that suggestion or idea helps me get there, well, then it's part of my arsenal. I will add that to my idea. So yes, I'm humble, and I would, I'm very open to ideas, and also pretty quick and accepting foreign ideas and putting it into adopting it as on my own. So putting a brand on that myself as well.
So, Rico, I think you talked earlier about how you've had the opportunity to be an entrepreneur in a couple different scenarios and a couple different opportunities. Has your vision like stayed the same through all of those different opportunities, or were they very different, unique opportunities in which the vision changed going into each of those opportunities?
That's a great question, and I must be asking a really good question. So, uh, no, it did not. It did not. My it again is an evolving maturity process. I think the vision crystallizing, and I think I was getting prepared to take on this journey where I am now front and center of the whole relationship. Like I told you, I was involved in entrepreneurial organizations where I was an important component of that whole journey while someone else was leading. I was, if you will, one of the key players. So my vision was different at that time, and my role was still different. But each iteration or each piece of that entrepreneurial journey strengthened my own beliefs, my own knowledge base, appreciation of what needs to get done and what will possibly make for a good vision.
And so, Ringo, I,
Absolutely.
I always like to end the show with this last question: that what do you know for sure about leadership?
Um, I will start by saying never give up. As a leader, you cannot give up. It's not over until it's really over. So, which kind of ties to more tangibles like grit, determination, belief. All of those factors are immensely important. As a leader, uh, I believe, like you rightly said, I'm glad you picked it up, is immense humility. You need to be immensely humble in accepting new ideas, new direction. Change is the only constant we all keep, and the cliched statement, right? So as a leader, you need to be able to adapt and be absolutely comfortable with that adaptation. And you have to be a student for life. You need to constantly keep learning. The world, I was a tea farmer. I manufactured tea with equipment which was built in the 1920s, frankly, and the machinery is still 100 years old on a tea estate. So from there, I'm working on enterprise mobility and talking about cloud. So I've come a long way. So if I weren't a student, it would be tough for me to do that. So I believe that's an important trait to have, to be a student all your life. And finally, I think you need to have immensely strong communication skills, the ability to communicate across levels. You have to communicate with your peers, with your leaders, with your subordinates, with the social. And what you communicate is important because you need to make sure your vision is translated and it's embedded in the person's mind when you're sharing it. So having the ability to communicate crisply and concisely and very clearly is paramount, making sure people align with your leadership. I think those are some things which I believe most of us possess. We don't probably pay attention to it. So I believe, again, leadership is a skill that you can sharpen with the right inputs, the right exposure, right training, and all of us, I think, are built equal. I believe so. It's the exposure and the amount we are let ourselves expose and learn helps us become better leaders. And of course, finally, risk and so on is again an important thing. But I think all of this, if you take care, the risk factor kind of comes down because you've addressed a lot of the risk factor in all of these things. When you have the knowledge, when you have the open ideas, when you're adaptable to change, when you're a great communicator. So I believe that each of these components it's like your points, right? Your insurance points. You just kind of start bringing it down. So your risk factors start coming down because you are scoring high on these factors. The unknown, risk is basically an unknown. You're bringing down the unknown when you have addressed some of your own intrinsic capabilities so that intrinsically you've built yourself stronger, the unknowns are smaller. So yeah, that I think is important, is what I think I have learned about leadership in my 3 decades of work life.
Those are such great insights. And Ringo, I thank you for, sharing your story, for sharing your knowledge today. I felt like I was a student in class. And so I always feel good, but partially selfishly, I do this because I love to learn and I love learning from other people. And then it's like, well, okay, I hope other people get something out of it too. But I really do think that, people can pull a lot from this episode. You shared so much. There's so much great information that I think is applicable to people who even are not entrepreneurs, but those who are looking into getting into entrepreneurship. I think you just shared so much valuable information for them. So thank you so much for being on the show today, Ringo.
Thank you so much. And I'd like to end firstly thanking you for giving me an opportunity to talk to your audiences, and my best wishes to all of them who listen to your show. And I would like everyone to dare to dream, because we need more entrepreneurs, we need more innovation, because that's what's going to take us to the next level. And so I hope people who are listening in your show are inspired to take that plunge. It's not so bad. It's a great journey, and I wish anyone who's wanting to take that plunge all the very best and all success. And all success to your show, Lisa. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to the Supporting Leaders podcast. For more on supporting leaders, go to www.supportingleaders.org. Here you'll find links to the YouTube versions of our interviews and links to the podcast. You'll also find articles on leadership. To join in on the conversation, find the Supporting Leaders group on Facebook and find us on Instagram at Supporting Leaders.